Welcome back. Chris Temple here with you again, of course, and today's update is going to be on Argentina Lithium and Energy. They are listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol LIT. Here in the U.S. on the OTCQX market, the symbol is LILIF. You see that here on the screen along with their various contact information. I'll leave up here for the next couple of seconds so you can jot it down without having to pause too long. Make sure that you keep up with them at their website, on social media, etc. Back in March, I did an interview with Nico Kakos, who is the CEO of the company. If you didn't see that before, it would be a good thing for you to watch, of course, on my YouTube channel. As well as, of course, going to their website and getting a rundown of their various projects in Argentina. Today, in just a few minutes, I'm going to be joined by their Vice President of Exploration, Miles Rideout, who is going to give us an update on a number of different things, what's going on in the country, the good things that have happened in the recent past in Argentina to make a good situation for the country, for its mining industry generally, and its lithium future specifically, all better than they previously were under the new government, of course, of President Javier Milei of recent months. Now, before we get going, Miles and or myself might be making what could be construed as forward-looking statements, so we want you to be aware of that. Sometimes you look down the road and things work out slower than you thought, or not at all, or sometimes better than you thought if you're really lucky. But these all, of course, are forward-looking things that we can't guarantee. We can just tell you what's already happened and what the game plan is. What's already happened that's notable for Argentina Lithium and Energy and for investors in that, especially, are two things. Number one, for the second time in the last 5 years, I guess it's 6 years now, I should go back to 2018, we've had major debacles in the lithium space after first having big run-ups. So one more time in recent months, actually going on a year or better now, we've seen lithium stocks, which were the darlings for so long, come crashing back down to earth one more time. Real as well as imagined, probably as many or more of the latter, roadblocks to further growth down the road. A lot of that has to do, as I've discussed numerous times recently and will continue to do as we get into the summer, with the big question marks that have come out over the U.S. EV industry. Whereas a lot of us warned for so long, this administration that runs the U.S. has not taken the proper care to making sure we've got the raw materials, the supply chains, every bit of the building blocks and the curve from taking raw materials out of the ground to putting them into your garage as a Tesla or a General Motors EV or somebody else's EV. It hasn't gone that well. Meanwhile, China is flooding the world with EVs, which is good for them in a way. It's going to keep costs down long term, but that might be prohibitive still to the kind of industry a lot of people thought we were going to have going forward, at least in North America. Again, a lot of that is imagined. Some of it is real. But Argentina Lithium and Energy has two distinctions that make it worth a second closer look for a lot of people. First of all, as some of you remember, and as I discussed with Nico at the time when he and I visited earlier this year, Argentina Lithium and Energy got a major investment from the automaker Stellantis last fall. That, as I have said numerous times, and it's true with lithium, it's true with other base metals, battery metals, whatever, one of the things that's going to determine who survives and who doesn't is going to be, do they have a big brother? Do they have somebody down the road that wants that lithium in this case? And the Stellantis deal was, of course, a game changer for Argentina Lithium, number one. Number two, the fact that the company is located in Argentina. Argentina is perhaps the major hotspot in the world right now as far as its ascendance in this industry. You'll see here that lithium has its own triangle in South America, just like in BC and Canada. You have the Golden Triangle, which has produced lots of gold and silver and some other metals over the years. Down in South America, you have the Lithium Triangle, and Argentina is making a play even before Milei was elected president. of being the big new kid on the block globally when it comes to production. They've got the salars for it, they've got the ground for it, they've got the policies for it in their mining friendly provinces, and you're going to hear all about that and more here coming up from Miles. And I am joined here by Miles Rideout, who is the VP of Exploration for Argentina Lithium. Miles, good to see you again.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me on the show.
My pleasure. You and I got to meet and say hello briefly at the New Orleans Investment Conference last fall, and I sat in on your presentation, which was extremely insightful. I'm not a geologist, certainly not anything to do with the lithium space. So I've been around hard rock, precious and base metals enough to know just enough to be dangerous there. So you did a great job enlightening me on lithium generally, and especially on what's going on down there. Now, you've been with the Grosso Group for quite a while, though you got promoted almost 3 years ago to VP of Exploration. Tell us a little bit about your journey with Joe and with Nico and the crew down there and what you like about the project.
Sure. Well, I'm an exploration geophysicist, and I've been working in Latin America since 1989. I began consulting as a geophysicist with the Grosso Group in the late 1990s on some of their projects. And I like working with the Grosso Group. I was doing consulting with them on projects in Chile about 3 years ago. And they members of the Grosso Group were looking at my CV, my curriculum vitae, and looking at my lithium experience, and they thought I would be a good fit to take on the VP of Exploration role at Argentina Lithium and Energy. I think it's worked out very well since then. We've been very active over the last 2.5 years. We're having a good time. It's exciting times to be in this industry.
Well, it's exciting times to be in the industry to some extent. Like I said before I brought you on, it's been a topsy-turvy time in lithium, but you really are, I guess it's fair to say it's ground zero for where the future is in lithium in the world. You know, the lithium triangle down there that covers parts of was it Bolivia and Argentina, and who am I leaving out, Miles?
And Chile,
And
northern Chile.
Chile, right? I mean, that already produces a big whack of the world's lithium, and Argentina, by all appearances, is slated to take the lead really above everybody else. I mean, there's a lot of activity there. India's hunting around, the US is hunting around, lots of different people are down there. And we'll get to this when we wrap up later, because I want to get your take on President Milei and what he's done to make a good situation even better. But you've got a lot of great ground and projects down there in Argentina. And really, I have to believe that you living down there or being there most of the time anyway, you've got a lot different flavor of things than we see, for instance, in US markets right now, where everybody's share price has been hit and people wonder if there's going to be a lithium industry in the future, which is a crazy overreaction, but that's what some people see.
Yes. A few comments. So I think that Argentina is an excellent investment destination for lithium companies. The reason why is we've got large mid-grade and high-grade brine resources. So brines would be salt lake resources. We like brines because they are fast and inexpensive to put into production. And once you are producing, you've got a high rate of return. Um, the attractive thing about Argentina is it's a relatively low cost area for building a project, and the regulation is very favorable. Unlike the neighbors of Bolivia and Chile, um, lithium here is regulated the same way as it would be for any other mineral. We are operating in the pro-mining provinces of northwestern Argentina. We go through the same permitting processes as for other mineral commodities. And then when we go into production, we are responsible for paying a 3% net smelter royalty to the province where we're operating. It's a very clean system to bring a project into production and then pay out profits and pay dividends to our shareholders. That makes Argentina quite different from Chile and Bolivia, even though both those countries also have very large lithium resources.
Well, neat. Now, specifically where Argentina Lithium is concerned, and again, as I told folks before you came on, that one of the differentiators between a lot of exploration companies and ones like Argentina Lithium and Energy is when you have a ratification, in a sense, by a big brother or two or three coming in and helping out, as Stellantis did with you guys. So obviously they have some confidence in your ground. But back in late April, you gave an update on exploration at Rincon West. You have drilled the 12th, was it, well there that you're doing test work
It,
on? Tell us where you're at with that process.
so we announced the 12th exploration hole in April, and it's very similar to what our other drilling announcements have been. So we're drilling out the Rincon West project, the western block. We still have to take on the northern and eastern blocks of that project area. Um, And what we are defining is that we have a brine resource which starts from about 100 meters depth and takes us down to about 300 meters depth, typically in most of our holes, with grades ranging from on the low end, maybe 250 milligram per liter lithium and peaking about 400 milligram per liter lithium. These would be good mid-grade brines which are similar to what our nearby neighbor, Rio Tinto Mining, has on their project. So Rio Tinto came in on the same salt lake about two and a half years ago and purchased a large resource paying $825 million. Our premise was that we would have the same quality brines on our projects. And so 12 exploration holes have borne that out. Uh, what we're doing right now is well, we're drilling our 13th hole, and likely we'll do a 14th exploration hole. And we've just begun our first rotary drilling. So the rotary wells are different technology. They would be equivalent to a production well. We don't get to call them production wells until we have a production license, but it allows us to drill a production quality well and perform a pump test, and then we can assess what kind of real recovery we get from those wells. So the first of those wells is going into the ground now.
Neat. So, in other words, then you're getting to the place where you're going past the exploration holes and toward, I don't know if pre-production is the right term, but you want to see how these things flow and what the recovery is.
Right. It's part of our resource definition process. So we'll be upgrading the quality of our resource by doing this test work. But these wells that these sort of production quality wells we're drilling now would be incorporated into a future production project.
Gotcha. And now, since you brought that up, are you looking to do still at this point, at some point rather in 2024, a resource estimate again?
Exactly. Once we finish the drilling on our western block, so I think there's two more. Well, we're going to finish the current diamond drill hole, do another diamond drill hole, and likely the two rotary wells and pump tests. At that point, we should be ready to make our initial resource announcement on. So this is on the west block, and I would expect that that would occur around the end of Q3 of 2024.
Okay, and Miles, you mentioned the readings that you've gotten in some of these wells, 250 milligrams per liter to 400 or thereabouts. And those are well above what a lot of producers are seeing. I mean, I've heard of some that are economical. Maybe that was before the big price drop, but 100 milligrams or less. So I guess you can say so far so good on that score.
It's what we anticipated. We were well aware of the grade potential of this basin going in. There had been prior resources announced on the basin by our neighbors. So going in, these are the types of results that we hope to achieve, and we've done so. I'll just make the point that the trend in the lithium industry is actually changing a little bit. Now, my focus is on brines. And so the extraction limits for lithium brines are improving. What I mean is, the targets that you would have you would look for on brines are decreasing because the extraction technologies are improving. A few years ago, say 10 years ago, um, the developers were focused on high-grade brines because they were intent on using evaporation processing. So your evaporation process is much faster if you're starting with a more concentrated product, a more concentrated brine. Uh, we have direct lithium extraction technologies coming online now in our industry, which mean that the current focus would be on mid-grade and likely in future lower grade resources. Such resources can be very large, very profitable, and the direct lithium extraction processes are amenable to grades on the order of 150 milligram per liter lithium or less. They're very economical to apply, and they're just coming online now. We are paying attention to any news in the direct lithium extraction space, uh, but it's a very timely technological advancement for our industry.
Well, and I guess for folks who are watching that aren't that familiar, this is not unlike what has gone on in hard rock mining and other things. You know, technology has improved over time that has allowed lower grade ores to be processed economically, all else being equal, and yours is no different. And the nice thing about that is that in the end, this means a relatively small, if not tiny, footprint environmentally for these kinds of producers. You're not digging big holes in the ground. You don't have what that big project that Albemarle has in Nevada. You got what, a 20 square mile open pit and rolling evaporation ponds and whatnot. You're not looking at anything like that.
Right. One of our projects would be a well field. So we're drilling wells in the salt flat. And if we're using direct lithium extraction technologies, it means we can remove the lithium from the brines that we're pumping out of the ground, and then we can reintroduce those brines back into a different part of the salar, um, and have a very sustainable, low impact project. All we're doing then is extracting the lithium from the brines and leaving the salt lake intact underneath the crust of the surface.
Well, and this is something I've watched via a couple of companies. One of them has been your neighbor for a while at what kind of various DLE, direct lithium extraction technologies there are. And this is something that's caught on so much that even a couple of the big energy companies here in the US are looking at the possibility of, hey, when we are drilling an oil well and we get a lot of salt water up with the oil, which is, happens almost everywhere to one extent or another. Golly gee, what if we're throwing away a saleable product by pumping that salt water back in the ground? Let's first see if we can get enough lithium out of it to make it worthwhile. So it's really cool how technology is enabling this, and again is going to mitigate the need down the road if we continue to see demand for lithium rise, of having these big strip mines and that type of thing. Real quick before we start to wind down, Miles, are there any um, particular technologies that you think might be better than others, or are there a number of different ways to skin this cat?
There are several competing technologies. Uh, how you would choose between them depends on the characteristics of the brine that you have. And then there's different energy requirements and certain other requirements. We are assessing 4 technologies ourselves. This will be a process which takes about a year to complete. Um, but the technologies we are evaluating would allow us to go from brine through a lithium chloride solution and then to a lithium carbonate final product. And when I say lithium carbonate, what I mean is battery grade lithium carbonate would be our final product. And we're trying to get that project into production as quickly as possible. It's still a few years in future, but we're doing what we can to move that process forward.
Neat. So it's not like there's just one technology out there that's going to be great to the exclusion of others. It depends on a lot of the other variables that are there. That's good
Exactly.
to know. It's good for all of us to know, I think. So what are you've got the resource that's going to be coming out. Are there any other important mileposts that you can maybe point us toward the likelihood of or possibility of over the balance of the year, even in the early next year? And I guess part of that would be the question of, what I know Stellantis is now an engaged party. They're a big shareholder, and what are they awaiting? What's going to rock their world?
So first of all, Stellantis. So they invested in our company in October of last year. Um, what they were interested in doing was, aside from obtaining some ownership, they have about 19.9% of our local subsidiary, but they wanted to achieve an offtake agreement for once we go into production. So we signed that offtake agreement. That would amount to them having first right of purchase on 15,000 tons per year lithium carbonate over 7 years, once we can get our first project into production. Um, it's a big deal for them. It's an excellent deal for us. What we asked from them was 45 million US dollars, which would allow us to take our two core projects through resource stage and into pre-feasibility. And what they actually did was they invested from their Peugeot subsidiary here in Argentina, and they invested in the form of Argentine pesos. So their at the official exchange rate, what they invested was $90 million. But after converting to hard currency, what we realized was just slightly less than 45 million US dollars, which funds our exploration, as I say, through to pre-feasibility on the two core projects. Excellent deal for us, and I think it's the way the automotive manufacturers are likely to go. I think that investors in our business are likely to see more of the major automotive manufacturers uh, looking to secure their supply chains. In terms of news to look for, uh, the big news for us this week is that we've just mobilized our geophysics crew onto the Antofalla project.
Hmm.
So Antofalla is another large mid-grade salar, and again, we've got a major player beside us at Antofalla. We are operating right beside Albemarle Corporation, so the world's second largest lithium producer. Albemarle has a very large mid-grade brine resource on Antofalla. Our property is more than 10,000 hectares. It's undrilled, and we've been in permitting for the last 18 months or so. So now we have the permit for the geophysics. We're going to be doing about 3 months or more than 100 line kilometers of transient electromagnetic soundings. This allows us to image the brines in the salt flat from the surface so that we can target our drilling. And we're in the final stages of permitting our drilling. So I expect that in the latter part of this year, we will begin the exploration drilling on Antofalla North. Likely that would be 6 broadly spaced exploration holes along the 27-kilometer length of the project, so that we can identify uh, the areas with the best grades and the best formation porosity, and then we can plan how to drill out the resource there. So getting this geophysics going is excellent news. And then looking for us to start drilling on Antofalla North in the latter part of this year, that'll be a big step for the company as well.
Neat. Well, again, you're in a great area. I don't know if there's any place on the planet right now, all else equal, that is as good for lithium exploration as Argentina. The country has made very plain that it intends to be a major player. It's very supportive of this. Back a few months ago when I visited with Nico, and we gave, kind of a more elementary overview of the company and the projects and so forth. One of the things that he and I discussed was that, unlike a lot of the other South American nations where you can have a wide swing as far as the mood and the attitude toward extractive industries from one kind of government to the next, that really wasn't even the case before now in Argentina that much. Whether you had a Peronist or a rightist or whoever in there, the country's always been friendly, more than the average one down your direction, to these kind of industries. And now you've got a guy in there who has been a lightning rod. He's had some success, because here in the US and the press, you don't hear about him as much. They all shut up over their hysterics because the guy's actually doing a pretty good job. So
Yes.
what has Milei done that maybe our average viewer that gets the sanitized and biased, U.S. press might not know about, specifically where this kind of industry is concerned?
I'll explain a little bit about the setting first of all, and then Milei's advances in promoting business here. So the pro-mining provinces of Argentina have always been pro-mining, and those are the areas that we're operating. And mining is regulated by the provinces. So provinces like Jujuy, Salta, and Catamarca have been pretty insensitive to which federal government has been in power in Argentina. They've been pro-mining all the way along and building mines as quickly as exploration companies can achieve. What happened last year with Javier Milei, he was a very outspoken critic of the previous government. He leans to the right. I think it's accurate to say that he's a libertarian, and he's also a professional economist. And when I hear him speak, his understanding of the hurdles to economic success in Argentina are very similar to my own understanding. Likely, he's far more informed than I am, but I tend to agree with his viewpoints. He won a resounding success last year. He won better than 70% of the popular vote. So he has a mandate from the right wing and the central wing of the Argentine populace to promote business here. He was very direct in how he said he would do that, and he's executing on all the points he made in his election campaign. He came out with a recent law to deregulate certain aspects of finance in Argentina. What it means for mining companies is that he's taking some of the constraints of having to sell proceeds and buy local pesos. And he's also improving the regulations for how companies, once they've received an investment from abroad, how they pay out dividends. So he's deregulating industry in general in a way that's very favorable to mining. I think that mining companies will respond in kind. They will be more willing to invest hundreds of millions of dollars or potentially billions of dollars in Argentina because these guarantees on how you remove proceeds from the country are now in place.
That's neat. A few weeks back, I got to be at a conference in New York City and listen to Rob McEwen there, and actually a couple weeks before that in Washington as well. And of course, one of his big projects right now is an up and coming copper project in Argentina. And he was lionizing Milei and talking about how great it is to be in that country right now. And I know you feel the same way. Well, Miles, I appreciate the update. We're going to visit again with you or Nico again down the road, keep people up to date. But folks, this is a good story in an industry right now that once again is on its back foot. We've been here before. We've been fortunate at the National Investor to have a couple of companies over the last several years that made a pile of money for us. We've got residual positions in both of those still. But certainly not at their peaks where we were taking some profits a while back. So this will come back around again. Yes, the EV industry, especially in the US, has got challenges, which is going to take a while to overcome. But the rest of the world is still green pastures, pardon the play on words, for this industry. And of course, that's not the only need for lithium, but it's the one that most people know about. So Miles, thank you so very much, folks. Make sure that you keep up to date with Argentina Lithium. Here's your information again, of course, on the screen, so you can contact them at their website, follow them on social media. And last but not least, make sure to follow yours truly for my updates, video, and otherwise on this and other companies. Miles, continued best of luck to you.
Thank you, Chris. It was great catching up.
Take care.
For much more of the National Investor's cutting-edge content and actionable investment opportunities, make sure to subscribe to Chris's free content at nationalinvestor.com. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel too. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.